A man who has killed 37 people sits alone at his usual corner table in an upscale steakhouse. He's not here for the food. He's waiting for something that won't come. Absolution. But in a world built on blood debts and broken promises, his search feels hopeless. He orders the ribeye medium rare, the same meal he's ordered every Tuesday for 20 years. A ritual of remembrance. The new waitress who serves him seems different. There's a haunted recognition in her green eyes that cuts through his exhaustion. As she pours his wine, her hand trembles as she slips a folded napkin toward him. He expects nothing, another nobody in a city full of them. But when he unfolds it, 5 words stop his heart and transform this quiet dinner into a fight for survival. Heavily armed men are surrounding the building. The weight of Vincenzo Luca's empire was a physical thing, a shroud woven from corpses and compromises. It was impossibly heavy. At 58, he commanded the Luca crime family, a sprawling criminal organization with fingers in everything from construction unions to pharmaceutical distribution. From his penthouse overlooking the city's glittering skyline, he could order a man's death with a phone call and watch the consequences ripple through the streets below. He was a king in a kingdom of shadows and cement, and he was profoundly, achingly dead inside. The world he inhabited was a violent one. Every interaction was calculated by soldiers, capos, and consiglieri watching his back. The people he met had been vetted, their loyalty purchased or coerced. They feared him, respected him, served him, but no one truly knew him. They saw the legend, the silver-haired boss with tattooed forearms and cold eyes. They didn't see the man who still wore his wedding ring 23 years after his wife's murder, who ordered her favorite wine every Tuesday night and drank it alone. The real Vincenzo, the one who had grown up in a Brooklyn tenement with dreams of opening a legitimate restaurant, had died the night Isabella did. Bled out on a sidewalk along with her while some junkie ran off with her jewelry. This evening's ritual was born from that grief. Every Tuesday for 20 years, he came to Bella Notte, the upscale Italian steakhouse that occupied neutral territory in the city's underworld. It was the one place where violence was forbidden by mutual agreement among the families. The one place where he could sit alone with his memories and pretend for an hour that he was just a man having dinner. He always requested the same corner table, the one with a view of the rain-streaked street. He always ordered Isabella's favorites, the Chianti Classico 1998, the ribeye she'd loved, the tiramisu he could never bring himself to eat. The staff knew him. They knew not to interrupt, not to offer false comfort with their small talk. They brought his food, kept his wine glass full, and left him to his ghosts. Tonight was the anniversary. 23 years since the random robbery that shattered his world and forged him into something harder, colder, more ruthless than he ever wanted to be. 23 years of building an empire on the principle that no one would ever hurt him again because everyone would be too terrified to try. He didn't notice the new waitress at first, didn't see the way she watched him from across the dining room, her dark skin gleaming under the warm lights, her green eyes, startling, unusual, inherited from some distant ancestor, tracking his every movement. Didn't see the way her fingers tightened around the order pad when the hostess pointed her toward table 9. Didn't see that she recognized him. Or that outside, in the rain-soaked darkness, armed men were taking their positions. Before we see what Daisy does next, if this story of impossible choices and second chances has you gripped, hit that subscribe button, because what's about to unfold will challenge everything you think you know about revenge, mercy, and love. Trust me, you don't want to miss how this night ends. The rain came down in sheets the night Vincenzo Luca pushed through the brass doors of Bella Notte, water streaming from his black overcoat. It was Tuesday. It was always Tuesday. The hostess, Maria, who'd worked here for 15 years, didn't smile or make small talk. She simply nodded and led him through the warm amber glow of the dining room to table 9, the corner booth with the worn leather seat that had molded itself to his shape over 2 decades. His table, his ritual, his penance. He removed his coat with practiced efficiency, revealing the expensive simplicity beneath. Black button-down shirt, sleeves rolled to expose forearms covered in fading ink. A guardian angel on his right arm, her face, Isabella's. A rosary wrapped around his left, each bead a kill he'd made in her name. His silver hair, slicked back and touched with rain, caught the candlelight. The wedding band on his left hand, white gold, simple, eternal, had worn a groove into his finger so deep it would never fade. 58 years old, 37 bodies, 23 years of grief. Isabella. The memory ambushed him as it always did when he sat down. Her laugh, bright as breaking glass. That last dinner at the little trattoria in Little Italy, before they had money, before they had enemies. She'd ordered tiramisu and fed him bites across the table, her eyes dancing with secrets. She was 3 months pregnant. They were going to name the baby Sofia if it was a girl, Marco if it was a boy. The junkie who shot her in a bodega parking lot took them both. Vincenzo gestured to the sommelier without speaking. The man brought the Chianti Classico 1998 without asking, Isabella's favorite, and poured it with the reverence of a priest offering communion. Vincenzo raised the glass alone and drank to ghosts. He ordered the ribeye medium rare, the tiramisu he'd never touch. He was so tired. Tired of breathing, tired of remembering, tired of waking up in a world that had killed the only thing he'd ever loved. His empire meant nothing. His power was ash. He went through the motions because motion was all that remained. Eat, drink, survive another week. He was already dead. He just hadn't stopped moving yet. Daisy Murphy's hands shook as she tied her apron, the navy fabric crisp and new against her uniform dress. First week on the job, last night of her old life. The manager had been thrilled to hire her, reliable, experienced, available for evening shifts. He didn't know Danny Cortez had called in a favor to get her placed here. Didn't know she wasn't here to serve tables. She was here to bear witness. Your father's debt needs paying, Danny had told her 3 nights ago in his cramped office above the auto shop, his weathered face hard with purpose. He'd raised her after Patrick Murphy died in prison when she was 6, taught her right from wrong, paid for her community college classes. He was the only father she'd really known, and now he was asking her to watch a man die. Her real father's voice echoed from childhood fragments, whiskey-soaked stories told in the dark. The one that got away, Daisy girl. Beautiful Italian woman, wrong place, wrong time. I just wanted the jewelry. She fought. The gun went off. He'd said it like an accident, like fate, like something that just happened to him instead of something he'd done. He never said her name, never said he was sorry. Isabella Luca, Vincenzo Luca's wife. Daisy had memorized the photos Danny showed her. Younger then, dark-haired and hungry-eyed, a soldier building an empire on rage. The man who'd spent 23 years hunting every person connected to his wife's murder. Who'd found them all, one by one. Except Patrick Murphy, who'd had the courtesy to die in a prison stabbing before Vincenzo could reach him. But Vincenzo hadn't forgotten, and neither had Danny. You don't have to pull the trigger, Danny had said, his hand heavy on her shoulder. Just be there. Watch it happen. For your father. for family. Now she stood behind the server station, watching Table 9 through the ambient glow of candlelight. Vincenzo Luca sat alone, silver-haired and still, drinking wine like a man at a wake. He looked smaller than the photos, tired, human. She'd expected a monster. Through the rain-streaked windows, she saw the shadows moving, a van parking across the street, figures in dark coats taking positions in the alley. Danny's crew. Professional, methodical, deadly. 2 minutes, maybe less. Her father's ghost pressed down on her shoulders. 24 years of inherited hatred she'd never asked for, demanding she stand still and let justice, their version of it, finally arrive. The order pad felt like lead in Daisy's hand as she crossed the dining room toward Table 9. Her heart hammered against her ribs so hard she thought it might crack bone. Every step was a betrayal of Danny, of her father's memory, of the only family she'd ever known. But she couldn't stop moving. Vincenzo Luca looked up as she approached, dark eyes registering her presence with the flat awareness of a man who'd survived by noticing everything. She reached for his empty wine glass, her fingers barely steady. "Something wrong?" His voice was low, rough-edged, not unkind. She froze, met his gaze, and saw it. The same exhaustion that had lived in her father's eyes during those last visits to prison. 2 men destroyed by one terrible moment on a dark street 23 years ago. One had pulled the trigger. One had lost everything. Both had been dying ever since. The monster from Danny's stories didn't exist. Just a man, alone, waiting for the bullet he probably believed he deserved. Through the window behind him, she saw the glint of a rifle scope on the rooftop across the street. Her hand moved before her mind could catch up. She grabbed a cocktail napkin from her apron, pulled out her pen with shaking fingers. The words came fast, desperate, damning. Heavily armed men are surrounding the building. She placed it under his wine glass, the white square stark against dark wood, and turned away. Her legs felt disconnected from her body. The dining room stretched before her like a mile of broken glass she'd have to walk barefoot. Behind her, the soft sound of paper unfolding. Then silence, the kind that precedes violence. She glanced back. Vincenzo's eyes had gone from tired to lethal in a heartbeat, the predator surfacing through 20 years of grief. He wasn't looking at the note anymore. He was looking at her, piercing and absolute, and she saw the moment he understood. This girl, this stranger, had just saved his life and sealed her own fate. Their eyes held across the candlelit distance, a question in his, a terrible answer in hers. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Outside, she heard the first car door slam. The clock was already ticking. Vincenzo was already moving when the window exploded. The bullet meant for his head punched through glass and candlelight, missing by inches, and suddenly the elegant dining room became a kill box. Patrons screamed. Tables overturned. Wine and blood and broken glass painted the marble floor in abstract violence. Vincenzo's hand shot across the distance, iron fingers closing around Daisy's wrist as he yanked her down behind the booth. She hit the floor hard, breath knocked from her lungs, and found herself staring into eyes that had gone cold and tactical. "You're with me now." Not a question, a command. "Move!" He pulled her up and ran, his body between hers and the shattered window, moving with the fluid economy of a man who'd survived 100 firefights. The kitchen, swing doors, stainless steel, the smell of garlic and fear. A back exit, escape. They never made it. Two men in black tactical gear blocked the doorway, weapons rising. Vincenzo didn't hesitate. He grabbed a knife from the prep station and became something else entirely. Not the tired ghost from Table 9, but a predator unleashed. The first man went down with the blade through his throat. The second managed one shot, wild, before Vincenzo closed the distance and ended him with brutal efficiency. Daisy stood frozen, hand over her mouth, watching a man die 3 feet from where she stood. Blood spread across white kitchen tile like spilled wine. The violence was so fast, so absolute, so real in a way her father's stories had never been. Vincenzo grabbed a gun from the dead man's hand, checked the magazine, and pulled her forward. "Stay close." The back alley reeked of rain and garbage, and there, commanding the siege from beside a black van, stood Danny Cortez. Their eyes met across the wet pavement. His face registered shock, then something worse. Betrayal so profound it looked like grief. "Daisy?" His voice cracked. "What did you do?" Vincenzo fired twice, forcing Danny behind cover, then dragged her toward a delivery truck idling at the curb. Glass shattered, bullets sparked off brick. He shoved her into the passenger seat and floored it, tires screaming on wet asphalt. The city blurred past in neon and rain. Sirens wailed in the distance. Ordinary life to war zone in 30 seconds. And no going back. The stolen truck fishtailed through rain-slicked intersections, Vincenzo driving one-handed while he worked his phone with the other, calling soldiers, activating protocols. Every safe house, every loyal crew, every escape route he'd built over 23 years. "North Side apartment," he muttered, yanking the wheel. 3 blocks. They arrived to find it burning. Flames licked from second-story windows, black smoke billowing into the rain. Fire trucks screamed closer. Men in dark coats melted into shadows across the street, not firefighters. Vincenzo slammed the truck into reverse. "They knew you'd go there." Daisy's voice was small, hollow. "Someone sold you out." His jaw clenched. He tried the next location, an industrial lot near the docks. His phone rang before they got halfway, his lieutenant, voice tight with warning. "Boss, don't come to the warehouse. It's compromised. Everyone's compromised. I don't know how, but they're everywhere." The line went dead. Vincenzo's knuckles went white on the steering wheel. He turned on her then, the truck skidding to a stop in an empty parking lot, and the gun that had killed 2 men an hour ago was suddenly inches from her face. "Who are you?" Each word carved from ice. "How did you know?" Daisy's phone buzzed in her pocket. Once, twice, insistent. She didn't move, didn't breathe, just stared at him with those green eyes that held too much guilt to be innocent. "Answer it," he said softly. Deadly. Her hands shook as she pulled it out. The screen lit her face in cold blue light. Danny Cortez. "Traitor. You're dead." Danny Cortez. "He'll figure it out. He'll kill you himself." Danny Cortez. "You chose wrong, little girl." Vincenzo snatched the phone from her trembling fingers, read the messages. His face went very still. Danny Cortez. Not a question. Recognition. Ancient history surfacing. Patrick Murphy's partner. He looked at her, really looked, and saw it. The green eyes, the delicate bone structure, the ghost of a dead man in her features. Murphy. The name tasted like poison, like blood. His finger tightened on the trigger. Rain hammered the roof. The city hunted them both. And Daisy Murphy closed her eyes, waiting for the bullet her father had earned 23 years ago. Vincenzo drove them to an abandoned warehouse on the edge of the industrial district, a forgotten relic from his early days. Inside, water dripped through rusted skylights. The air smelled of decay and motor oil. He shoved her against a concrete pillar, gun pressed to her temple, and his voice came out raw, broken. "Who are you?" Daisy's breath hitched. 24 years of lies and inherited sin came crashing down. She met his eyes, those dark, devastated eyes, and gave him the truth that would kill her. "My name is Daisy Murphy." The name detonated between them like a grenade. Vincenzo went absolutely still. She watched the recognition cascade across his face, shock, then understanding, then a rage so pure it was almost holy. "Patrick Murphy was my father." Her voice cracked. "He killed your wife." The gun barrel pressed harder against her skull. His hand shook. 23 years of grief lived in that tremor, in the tears that gathered at the corners of his eyes, in the animal sound that tore from his throat. "He took everything." A whisper, a scream. "I know." Daisy didn't flinch, didn't look away. "I came here to watch you die. Danny sent me. Your father's debt," he said. "I wanted to hate you. I tried to hate you." Tears streamed down her face, hot and shameful. "But you're just a man, alone, missing someone." Her voice broke completely. "Like me. Like my father was before prison killed him. Like Danny's been since the world took everyone he loved. We're all just," a sob, "haunted." Vincenzo's finger rested on the trigger. One squeeze. Justice. Revenge. Everything he'd built his empire to achieve. But she'd saved him. This girl, this daughter of his worst nightmare, had destroyed her own life to save his. The gun lowered, slowly, like a surrender. "Why?" The word barely made it past his lips. "Because mercy matters more than revenge." She looked at him through tears. "Because my father was wrong. Because you ordering that tiramisu you'll never eat breaks my heart. Because—" Her phone rang. Danny's number. Vincenzo answered, putting it on speaker. "I raised you, little girl." Danny's voice was granite and grief. "You chose wrong. I'm coming for both of you. And this time, there's nowhere left to run." The line went dead. Vincenzo looked at Daisy Murphy, enemy's daughter, unlikely savior, fellow ghost. "Then we run together," he said, "or we die together." Two people who should be enemies just chose each other over everything they've ever known. And the city that wants them dead is about to find out what happens when you corner people with nothing left to lose. If you're as invested in their survival as I am, smash that like button and let's see if mercy can outrun vengeance. Vincenzo had one card left to play, the escape plan he'd built for the day his empire finally collapsed. Offshore account in the Caymans, fake passports and a safety deposit box downtown, a boat waiting at the marina, fueled and ready, registered to a ghost. "Burn it all down and disappear," he said, hot-wiring a sedan in the warehouse parking lot. "I always knew this day would come." They drove through a city that wanted them dead. Every intersection was a gamble. Every shadow could hide a gun. The rain never stopped, turning the streets into black mirrors reflecting neon and violence. Somewhere past midnight, stuck in traffic near the financial district, Daisy broke the silence. "Tell me about her. Isabella." Vincenzo's hands tightened on the wheel. For a long moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. "She wanted me to leave this life." His voice was distant, remembering. "We had enough money. Could have opened that restaurant, raised our kid somewhere normal. But I was young and stupid and thought power mattered. He laughed, bitter. She died because I stayed, because I thought I was building something. I built her grave. Daisy stared at the rain streaming down the windshield. My father told me stealing was survival, that we had to take what the world wouldn't give us. She swallowed hard. But that night, he took more than jewelry. He took your future, your child, everything you could have been. He took his own future, too, Vincenzo said quietly. Prison, death, leaving you behind. We're both orphans of that moment, her voice cracked, both trapped by ghosts. He looked at her then, really looked, and saw not an enemy's daughter, but a woman carrying the same unbearable weight he'd carried for 23 years. I'm tired of ghosts, he said. The light turned green. He accelerated. The ambush came from nowhere, a van slamming into their side, muzzle flashes from the alley. Vincenzo returned fire through the shattered window while Daisy grabbed the dead man's backup piece from under the seat and fired with shaking hands. Not trained, but desperate, determined. They escaped, barely, blood on Vincenzo's shoulder. You're tougher than you look, he said, half smiling through the pain. She pressed her hand to his wound, keeping pressure, and something shifted between them. Recognition. Connection. Love growing where hate used to live. Dawn bled gray and cold across the horizon as they reached the marina. The rain had become a deluge, hammering the docks, turning the world into water and shadow. 200 yards. The boat waited at the end of Pier 7, salvation in fiberglass and diesel fuel. They never made it past the parking lot. Danny Cortez stepped from between shipping containers, flanked by 8 men with automatic weapons. Rain streamed off his face like tears. Behind him the ocean churned, indifferent to human grief. This ends now, Vincenzo. His voice carried over the storm. Then his eyes found Daisy and something broke in them. And you? You broke my heart, little girl. Danny, please, she started. No. The word was final as a grave. Your father died for nothing if I let this go. The firefight erupted like thunder. Vincenzo and Daisy moved as one, diving behind a cargo container as bullets tore through metal and rain. He fired methodically, each shot counting. She reloaded when his magazine ran dry, covered angles he couldn't see. Back to back against the world, 2 people who should have been enemies fighting like they'd done this for years. Vincenzo took a round through the side, protecting her from a flanking shooter. Stumbled, kept firing. Daisy killed the man who would have ended him, her hands steady now, grief and adrenaline making her certain. I've got you, she gasped, pulling him up. But Danny was faster, older, better. He closed the distance while they were vulnerable and pressed his gun to Daisy's temple, arm locked around her throat. Your father would be ashamed, he said, and she heard the tears in his voice. My father was wrong. Daisy's voice rang clear through the rain and gunfire. Revenge killed him. It won't kill me. I choose mercy. I choose. The shot came from impossible distance. Vincenzo, bleeding, barely standing, made the shot that ended it. Danny Cortez fell into the rain and didn't move. They stumbled toward the boat, leaving bodies and blood and the only family they'd ever known behind. Vincenzo's wound bled through his shirt. Daisy's hands were covered in red, Danny's, Vincenzo's, her own. They collapsed onto the deck as the engine roared to life. The city disappeared into rain and distance. Victory tasted like ash and blood and terrible, necessary freedom. No going back, only forward, together, into the unknown. They survived the night, but can they survive what comes next? If this story of two broken people finding redemption in the ruins left you breathless, leave a like and subscribe for more stories where the impossible becomes inevitable. And stick around, because this ending is going to break your heart in the best way. The boat cut through morning fog like a knife through silk, the city shrinking behind them until it became just another shadow on the horizon. Dawn painted the sky in shades of gray and gold, washing the blood from the night before. Vincenzo sat on the deck, back against the cabin wall, while Daisy knelt beside him with the first aid kit. Her hands, steadier now, purposeful, cleaned and dressed the bullet wound in his side. The intimacy of survival. Two people who'd killed together, now healing each other in the quiet after the storm. "You'll live," she said softly. "We both will." He looked at his left hand. The wedding ring caught the early light, white gold worn smooth by 23 years of grief. He'd thought he'd wear it until the day he died, thought loyalty to the dead was all that mattered. But Isabella had wanted him to live, to be happy, to let go. "I loved her," he said, voice rough with exhaustion and something else, something like hope. "I always will. But she's gone." He slipped the ring off his finger, held it for a moment, a prayer and a goodbye. Then he stood, walked to the rail and tossed it into the deep water. It disappeared without a sound, taking his past with it. Daisy stood beside him, watching the city vanish into morning mist. "What now?" Her voice was small. "We have nothing. No family, no home. No, we have each other." Vincenzo turned to face her, this woman who'd saved him, fought beside him, chose mercy when the world demanded blood. "We have a chance." He cupped her face in his hands, calloused, scarred, gentle, and kissed her. Soft, earned, defiant. A promise made in the space between vengeance and forgiveness. She kissed him back, tasting salt and rain and second chances neither of them deserved. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from a fight you were born into. Sometimes mercy is stronger than revenge. Sometimes love grows in the ruins of hate, unexpected and impossible, and real. The boat carried them toward the horizon, two fugitives heading into an uncertain future. Free from the ghosts, free from the blood debts, free to become something other than what the past demanded. Redemption isn't about erasing what happened. It's about choosing what happens next.